saw there were some folks who joined us. So if you are here, say hi. I thought I'd come on early. Oh my goodness, the first commenter on my first YouTube live is Cheryl. Hello. Hi, Cheryl. You just made my day. Come here. Oh my goodness. So before I get going, I have to say, so I'm in this really great. I highly recommend it. I don't know if I can edit my YouTube videos. Like if this is in, I'm like, if this stays like as part of the video, like that's cool. I'm in a really great membership that's run by my friend Jamar to like get people doing YouTube. And so I joined it, and one of his challenges is that we have to do YouTube lives. And here's we don't have to, like he's not mean, but it's funny because I've done so many like live things, but I always do it on Crowdcast. And for whatever reason, I am like all up in my head about doing it on YouTube. And it's like the same thing. It's so weird. It's like it's the same thing. Why does YouTube seem scarier than like the thing I've used before? That makes no sense. Anyway, um, so that just YouTube made my day. So it's so nice to have you here. And all right, I guess I should get this show on the road. I should be prompt. Um, Heather, hi. So I am really excited about this to share this stuff. I don't have slides because like I don't want to like slideshow people till they like their brains just break. I feel like that's just I don't know. I just thought I'd show up here and chat with you all about one of the blocks I see. So if you've known me, I know there's folks here who are watching this who know me. You know, I'm like kind of like, hey, y'all, you need to have a blog on your website. Like it is useful for so many reasons, and people kind of get into the well, it's good for SEO, but it's good for a lot of other things. If you're on my mailing list, you probably got an email all about all the other things that it's good for. But again, when I talk to people about the importance of this particular marketing tool, is one of the few things I say, hey, pretty much everyone should do this. One of the things people always say to me is like, but I'm a bad writer, which I don't believe. I hate to write, which I do believe, and that's probably because it was a miserable experience in school. I don't know where to start. I'm staring at that blinking cursor, which is the worst, right? There's all these reasons that are completely legitimate. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't experienced those reasons for resisting using that part of my website. Like even now, sometimes I'm like, "Ugh, why is this screen so blank? Like it's very rude." So I wanted to use this medium as an opportunity to share some of the ways I use other tools. So I call them like my hacks to make actually doing that blogging thing a whole lot easier. Um, and so before we get too deep in, I did want to tell you a little bit of a backstory about my history in blogging for business. I feel like I've got this kind of interesting winding path that people seem to find resonant. So I thought I'd share it. So years and years ago, like in the early 2000s, so a long time ago, I had a boring government job. I was very good at it, but it was not hard. And I needed some kind of creative outlet. I was just very sort of mentally unfulfilled. And I'd heard about this blogging thing that you could do using WordPress. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I ended up starting kind of a niche blog for fun, see what happened. Um, then shortly thereafter, I got laid off because I don't know if any of you all have heard about what happened way back in 2008, a long time ago. But there was a pretty bad financial crisis. And so I was one of those people who got laid off at that time. And when that happened, something kind of amazing occurred, which was I had that little blog and I started getting little opportunities. So nothing, glamorous that was going to like fill the gap in my like nice job, but I started getting opportunities because I had shown that I had knowledge in this specific industry. And it was kind of interesting. I was like, well, hmm, that's interesting. And, again, like so many people in 2008, I looked around and there were no jobs. And I was like, well, I guess I got to do my own thing. I'll try freelancing. And so I was like, what do I do? Like, what's the easiest and cheapest way for me to start marketing myself if I'm not really known in this market? I had actually recently moved back to Portland, where I'm from. And I was like, well, I can set up my website, have a little blog, start talking about my knowledge of marketing stuff. And so I set that blog up, started writing about what people had asked me about, some of the common things I tackled at work, that kind of thing. At that time, I had no SEO strategy. I honestly had a very loose, I don't know if you could call it a content strategy. It was more of a vibes based approach to marketing, which I don't recommend. I basically published what I saw people asking about online. And it was kind of interesting. Stuff started happening. Again, like this is where, you know, I started getting random leads, people who I didn't know, I had no connection to. And they would sometimes reference things that I'd written on that little blog about marketing, about websites, about blogs. And this is again before I'd gotten really deep into kind of learning about SEO and keywords and all that stuff. And pretty quickly, that little blog became the top source of leads for my business. And I've seen this work over and over and over again. So, this, yes, that is the Sarah story, but I've seen that happen with people across different industries. One of my favorite stories is I had a client who was starting a medical practice, a specialized medical practice, but they weren't ready to leave corporate. They wanted to do it right, put the plans in place. Starting a medical practice is very complicated. And they wanted to also build their reputation outside of their corporate role before leaving and going into their own practice. And so we made a plan for them to do one simple activity. That was one blog post a month. And they did that one blog post a month. And it was based on basically on common questions that they got from patients and from referring physicians. Again, super simple, questions from patients and referring physicians. So again, nothing complicated. This was not deep into the keyword thing. And 2 years later, they'd indeed left, started that practice, and they already had an established reputation. They were already getting referrals from other physicians. They were already having patients find them. They already had all of that in place because they had done that very simple task, one blog post a month. It was achievable. It was doable. It was based on real people's interests and questions and curiosity. And it was pretty cool. And so I have lots of stories like that. I won't dazzle you with all of them, but with me, with that client, with other clients, a lot of us really do struggle with how do we start? Like, again, that blinking cursor of death, especially if you're not a natural writer. I do think that I'm very fortunate. That is something. I'm the child of an English teacher. If I wasn't like comfortable writing, my mom would come at me, and she's pretty scary. So, but if that's not something you're naturally comfortable with, we all have strengths. We all have things that we are good at. You have some communication skill that you are good at. I promise you. If you think that you don't, man, like get into my DMs on Instagram and I'll give you a little pep talk, okay? You absolutely do have a communication strength. And so that's why I have these really simple 5 hacks for making getting started easier. That's what I want for you. I don't want you to feel like you're going to get a D on a term paper. A blog is not a term paper. It is not technical writing. Even if you're a web developer or, you do, modeling of statistics, you actually don't want to be speaking like you're writing a technical article because your audience is not that audience. So it's a lot if you start going down this almost academic direction, which a lot of people do have the misconception that that's the way you need to write when you write a business blog. Don't. That is one thing that hobby bloggers, food bloggers, they do a really good job of bringing that personality in, and we can learn a lot from them. So I want to say that. So anyway, without getting too deep into that little sidebar, here are some of my top tips to make this much easier. I'm not going to say it's going to be a breeze. Make it much easier. And I use all of these tools. These are all part of my toolkit. Even though I do have a strong writing background, I'm very time crunched. And so a lot of these make my time more efficient because I only have so much time each week to do my marketing stuff. And a lot of that does, it's stuff like this, but it also is a lot of like getting on the keyboard and typing. I don't have a ghostwriter. It's all, if you see something written from my company, it's written by me most likely. And so I'm going to get into it. So here's my favorite. I do what I call a walk and talk. And one of the things, especially if you are an entrepreneur and especially if you're working all alone, I'm hoping you're getting out and getting some fresh air and not sitting there and staring at that screen all day long. And so one of the things I do is I will go on my daily walk in the middle of the day and I grab my phone and I use the Bear app to do this, but the Notes app works. There's lots of them, lots of tech, talk to text lots of talk to text apps out there. And I just start talking. And you might look like a little bit of a lunatic. Your neighbors might be like, hmm, out there talking to yourself again. But that just adds to the mystery. So, I just go with it, you know. And what I love about doing this is this actually, because when we speak, we tend to let our thoughts flow more freely. My transcripts of these are really funny because I'll be like, no, 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 wait, like I'm talking to some other person. Like, actually, what I mean is, well, those actually what I mean is oftentimes some of the best stuff that I like, because when I hear it come out of my mouth, I'm like, wait, that needs to be clearer. And so it works incredibly well. That's actually, if you get my newsletter, if you're on my mailing list, the vast majority of my newsletters, they sound very much like how I talk because I go for a walk on Wednesdays and do my walk and talk for my newsletter. So that's why it very much sounds like me speaking. Um, if you don't want to like if you feel like, that's just a little weird. One of the other things you can do is if you feel more comfortable talking to a real person, you can ask if you have like a close business friend or say you have a partner who's super supportive of this kind of thing. Give them a few questions to ask you and answer those questions. So it's kind of the same concept, because you can get those ideas flowing and it works really, really well. Again, I've had my husband do that where I've been kind of blocked with getting something, especially when I do like FAQ style posts. Sometimes I get a little blocked in my head about those because I want to explain all the things. And again, I'll have him ask me the questions, then I'll answer the kind of rapid fire answer them, and have him kind of cut me off so I don't ramble too much. And then I can go in and clean up those transcripts. It captures the brand voice, which is really, really, really critical. Again, we are not writing term papers here. Your blog is your voice. And that's why I really like this methodology is that you are literally capturing your voice and not like having a different voice when you write versus when someone talks to you. That's weird when the voices that people experience in real life and what they experience online are super disconnected. It's really does not help your brand integrity. So that is one of my favorites. Try it. I promise you. You will be shocked at the good stuff that comes out of your mouth because you're not sitting there like, that sounds weird. You're just letting it flow. One of my other favorite things to do is, again, if you are on my mailing list, you have experienced this, is I love a friendly newsletter audience. If someone has signed up for your newsletter, they have said, hey, I like you. I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm a friendly audience, right? Like they have already said like, hey, I want you to say things to me. And so sometimes if I have an idea for a blog post percolating, but I haven't quite gotten that fleshed out, I'm like, what I'll do is I'll kind of break it into little chunks, like 3 or 4 chunks, and I'll make it sort of an experimental series in my newsletter. Like, here's sort of, I did that earlier this year. Actually, let's get really meta in a series I did about blogging because I really wanted people to understand the depth of this subject. And so I think I had 5 or 6 newsletters that went in that series. They're going to be consolidated into one sort of master, like, guide to business blogging, but kind of popping those little ideas in 400-600 words in your newsletter, and then this is the really amazing thing is people will reply. You have some great data about if people have clicked on things in your newsletter. You start to see, okay, how resonant is this? If people reply and ask questions, that can be added to either the newsletter or to the blog post that it becomes. And so you get some little data points before you've ever hit publish on that public blog that's going to be seen by people who aren't familiar with you. So if you can make it resonate with people who are like, yeah, I like you, I want to hear from you, like I like what you have to say. It also does double duty because it gets some newsletter content out there, right? Because if any of you are dragging your feet on doing your newsletters, I want you to fix that too, because it's important. All right, this is an easy one. I know some of the names we've got here live, and I know some of you are really good on social media because I'm connected to some of you. Some of you all are great on LinkedIn. Some of you are really good on Instagram. Some of you are good on Facebook. The problem with those platforms, and I like them, I use them. I am not a social media hater. I think it's great, is that goes into the ether, never to be seen again. And it's incredibly frustrating. And frankly, even the search functions on those tools are pretty terrible. So what I'd like you to do, if you are active on social media, is to take a deep dive and do this in the next few days. Like, just take action. This is an easy one. Take a deep dive into those social media posts. What's gotten like engagement? What's gotten some really good questions? Could those questions become part of a blog post? While social and blogging, they're not 100% analogous. I will say that. If you have well-performing social media posts, ask yourself, can this become a blog post? Can I take this content, spiff it up, make it a little more expansive, maybe address some of the common comments that you've seen in those posts? Can that be a blog post? Can you hit, say, a 600 word count? I bet you can. I bet it's pretty easy. And the other thing that I really, really like about social media posts is if you are comfortable with social media, you've also probably gotten comfortable with adding calls to action in social media. You can also incorporate those that have already performed well into your calls to action on your blog post, because you want people to actually do something when they read a business blog. You're not doing this for fun, you're doing this for a business purpose. So again, using those and making them a little bit more fully fleshed out, a little bit more addressing any questions, et cetera, et cetera. It's an easy one. It's a really easy one. And again, I see a lot of folks who are killing it on social media platforms, and it takes all my self-control not to write all the time, this would be a great blog post on your website. So people who don't follow you on social media could read it, because this is some great insights. But because I'm not their, anti, I don't do that. But it does take a lot of my self-control not to. All right, number 4. This is another easy peasy one. So I bet a lot of you are recording a lot of videos. I know I am. In any given week, I've probably got 4 or 5 client videos, because I do record all my client sessions. Maybe I have sent a Loom to someone answering a question. Maybe I have refreshed a module in one of my courses. There are videos galore. And I would also put podcasting in this bucket as well. So any of that media that you're creating, there is blog content there. There is so much. I have so many videos flagged as, ooh, this could be an interesting blog post. I could turn this into an interesting blog post. I recommend, so this is one of the few times I recommend a specific tool. I recommend running the really solid ones through a tool like Descript. It's my favorite one. I think it gets the best transcripts. And seeing what's there. You can even ask its little wizard to pull out what could be good blog posts. It's a little iffy. Like, I will say, it's not like, you don't want to just copy paste that and put it into your blog, right? But I would say these are like hiding in plain sight. I have a module in my SEO, summer SEO program called Hiding in Plain Sight, because it's actually kind of wild when you start seeing how much stuff you're like, holy moly, this is really good stuff that I have created that can then be repurposed into something that is really unique and different and stands apart from other people in my field. And so, of course, I want to have a big warning with this. Really, really, really serious warning. I want you to be careful with this, because you do not want to be compromising your client's privacy if you're using client videos. So definitely do a heavy rewrite, and you make it your words, not theirs. So please be responsible. I know you know that, but I just need to say it to be responsible myself. They can also be, you don't want to just like put a like transcript on your website. A lot of people do this. If it is like, say a video like this, a lot of people would just publish a transcript of it on their website and post the video. A much better approach, if say I were repurposing this video as a blog post, would be to take the transcript, pull out the highlights, and turn that into the blog post and embed the video. So you don't want it. No one wants to just sit and read a transcript. Obviously, you do for accessibility, but that's a different conversation. So again, just be, Niquosha, who's my attorney, is like, yes, be smart. Privacy protection. Thank you, Niquosha. Finally, here's one of my, this is actually what I touched on earlier, is that we also, those of us who are service providers, if you are a, if you're a consultant, if you're a coach, if you're an attorney, if you're a CFP, if you're creative, if you're a designer, a brand strategist, copywriter, you have questions in your inbox. I know I have 91 unread emails this morning. There are good questions in my inbox, I'm sure. And what I have found is that if you answer a question 2 or 3 times, is probably a question that your broader audience has as well. So, when I was doing a lot of website design, I would get the question all the time: should I be using Squarespace or should I be using WordPress? And I lost count of how many times I still answer that question, quite honestly. I've lost count of how many times I've answered that question. And it no longer exists because I actually took it down like a week ago. But I used to have a blog post about that I would point people to. And these will be some of these client or prospect questions will become, I promise you, some of your most popular blog posts, because they are things that your potential buyers, your solution aware people, so folks who are looking for a solution, they have a question, they're looking for a solution. They're looking for answers, and when you provide it, adds to your credibility, right? So if you've said, hey, like, yeah, this is a question I get a lot from my clients, from potential clients, from colleagues. Here's the answer. It's like, wow, they just answered that question for me. What other questions can they answer? It's such an effective blog post. I'm also going to give you a little pro tip for calls to action for that. These kinds of blog posts, if you want to conversion optimize them, so like improve something happening off of that blog post, one of the best converting things is not a lead magnet. It's not a like sign up for my mailing list. It's actually like, do you have questions, more questions on this subject? Here's a link to book a paid call. So you can actually monetize a blog post like that very, very effectively. It does really well. And I've seen this across industries. So that's something to keep in mind too, is this is a real opportunity. If you are answering the questions that come into your inbox, you can make it into a nice little moneymaker. If you are newer in business and you do not have questions landing in your inbox, don't worry. Look on things like Reddit, on Threads, on wherever people are asking, Quora, wherever people are asking questions, kind of do a little cruise around. Look in your field, see what people are asking. You will be surprised at how many really simple questions that you can answer and actually turn them into blog posts. It's really, really, really a powerhouse type of content. And I really, really, really recommend you do that. All right. Hey, I blasted through that really fast. So have you all tried any of those hacks? I would love to know. I know that Sarah had said, not me, the Sarah that's in the chat had said that she uses the walk and talk method. It is really magical. And it really makes a difference. That is one I really, and Andrea said, oh, Andrea, hi, Andrea. Sending you a big hug. Andrea said that, that she pretends to answer a question to get started and her dog thinks that she's crazy. I mean, I would like the dog to be the interviewer. I think that'd be a good time. And the CTA, the call to action concept, that is something that a lot of times in blog posts, it's very easy for us to forget that we are running a business here, right? Like we want people to do something. So that's why I really see, like, with that last example, like you're answering really common questions in your industry, like actually getting someone to do something, like literally paying you to answer other questions is really wise. For some of those other methodologies, if you are, For example, if you're using one of like a module from one of your courses and turning it into a blog post, could you make the call to action be to purchase that course, right? Seems pretty logical. What have you, like, think through each of these, like what would be the ideal action for someone to take? Because again, we want to differentiate ourselves from hobby bloggers or blogging or people who blog as a business, because that is not what we're doing. We're leveraging our blog to grow our business, to expand our audiences. And so that call to action is one of those little things that actually helps people remember, oh, right, this is a business. It's not just someone blogging for funsies. It may be fun, but that's something that's really, really critical. It's also why I tell people, when you're doing this kind of content, I want you to reference things like, my clients, my students, my mentees, whatever it is you offer, reference that early in the content, again, to remind people, hey, this is a business. This is not a hobby blog, because it's easy for people to forget and you want to differentiate. If you want to, I'm going to do my little pitch. Warning, Sarah's going to do a pitch. Sorry, I had someone get mad at me recently for being like, you're selling something. And I was like, dude, I'm running a business. I do have, starting next week, if you are wanting to get your blog up and going, I would love for you to join us in my Hit Refresh program. It is not an SEO program. It is a program for people who are like, you know what, Sarah, I need to get this blog thing going, or I need to revitalize this blog. We're going to help you do a lot of the basics. Come up with ideas. We're going to help you figure out a content calendar. I hate that word. A content plan that works for you and your capacity. One of my biggest bugaboos with the marketing world is these absolutely bonkers content calendars that people give their clients that are absolutely unobtainable. Like, I don't know about you, but I have a small business. I cannot be online at the level that a lot of these folks are telling people to be online at. I cannot produce content at the rate that a lot of folks are telling people to produce content at. And each of you is different. You have different lives and different responsibilities and different capacities, different team sizes. So we're going to help you figure out what makes sense for you. If it is like that client of mine who is doing one blog post a month, awesome. We're going to make each one of those count. And we're also going to help figure out what your sphere of authority is. This is a term I use a lot. Like, what are the things that you need to be talking about and what can you repurpose? So I'm really, really excited about this program. It's been in the works, planning in the works for like a year. And so I'm very excited. It was actually originally as a workshop and we turned it into a month-long program because I really believe that in a lot of online, especially in online first businesses, people are not getting appropriate support to achieve the goals that they have. And so what I really want to help fix that, at least in my little corner of the internet, and offer you all more support. So that is why we changed it from a workshop to something a little bit more nurturing, so to speak. Any questions anyone has? I've got a little time. So any questions anyone has about blogging in general, I would be happy to. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. Sorry, I have to do this glasses thing. I don't know if anyone else is like, like in their 40s and needs like 87 pairs of glasses. Lenore said, my husband and I have been posting to our connections private profile about art discovery for over a year regularly. There are at least 7 blogs in there, I'm sure. Lenore, yes. Like, I bet there's more than 7. I bet there's definitely more than 7. I actually, if you've been doing that for over a year, I would actually set almost like a goal. Like, I'm going to find 12 topics. Because that's really, that's a lot of stuff, frankly. So, yeah, Denny. Hi, Denny. Oh my gosh, there's so many people I haven't talked to in so long who are on this call. Heather said, I'm trying to repurpose my newsletters and keep getting bogged down in the pressure of a blog post. I keep wanting to write a book. I cannot pare it down. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone to write shorter than they want to, because I love a nice long article. And actually, data-wise, if we're gonna get down to the brass tacks, data-wise says that content that's over 2,000 words long actually performs better, like in terms of like bounce rate, which is how people coming to a site and leaving, um, conversion rate, visibility in search engines. We're not talking about SEO here, but it is one of the factors. So there's actually a lot of data that says, hey, if you're a long-winded person, then you're actually gonna be rewarded. So, as long as it's formatted nicely. mm, But yeah, I understand that it is intimidating to write. And, you know, you could also think about turning it into a series. So if you have, 3 or 4 newsletters about related topics, you can have several interconnected short articles and, actually guide people to, like part one, part two, part three. That's absolutely reasonable and legit. So I have no problems with that either. Um, if you want to write shorter. I okay, I don't know if everyone's in the long-winded club or the like has 87 pairs of glasses club. Or maybe both because y'all are agreeing. So, can I answer any other questions for you all? Alrighty. Well, I just want to say, I said this in my newsletter today, and I want to say it again to all of you, is that I believe every single one of you has something to say. And I believe that every single one of you has within you a body of work. Now, whether that is, something big and fancy, or if it is just, your own, you're more like me and it's sort of your own little like, corner of the world. But I believe that all of you have that within you. And you also have something important to say that can improve the lives, the businesses, the perspectives of other people. Okay. So if you don't believe that, I want you to really think about shifting that belief because I am yet to meet anyone in my sort of ecosystem, my world, whatever, who I haven't talked to and been like, wow, I have never heard this before. I have never seen this before. This is really amazing stuff. Even if you're, doing something technical, such as design, you have something unique to offer and you are really doing a disservice in not sharing it. Truly. People can be helped by what you have to share. So I want you to believe that you have a body of work within you and I want you to believe that it is worth sharing. Okay? All right. Thank you all. This was really stressful for me to do on YouTube. And which is bananas, I know. But I really appreciate you all showing up. I'm going to be doing a few more of these on different topics. And so I am really excited that you all showed up. Oh, hey, Jamar, I was talking about you. Um, and thank you all. And this will be like a replay that'll be up on my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I really appreciate it. And have a good rest of your day. And take care. I'll have a great weekend.